and at 6:45 I was out picking up the lilac hedge that I'd been trimming back. I trimmed it back like a week and a half ago, and all the trimmings were still on my lawn because it was a little busy in the last couple of weeks. And so I'm out there filling up the bags to be picked up, and I didn't get my sawzall out. I think that was too good at 6:45 in the morning, but it was pretty well done. But my neighbor came over. We had his cup of coffee. He was in his slippers, and he said, "Well, I figured you're doing more than just picking up the trimmings there. I figured this is a little bit of therapy for you this morning." And so that's what we were doing at my house. I think we're coming together today. There's still a big infrastructure need across the country, absolutely, and here in the state of Minnesota, hasn't changed. Still there. The roads still need work. Bridges still need work. Still need investment in transit. You need investments in airports and other things around the country. That is clear. And I'm the chair of the National Association of Counties Transportation Committee, and I will tell you, county commissioners all over the country are talking the same thing. We need to make investments because we've been falling behind. And the one good thing, and I guess it was addressed this morning, but I'll repeat it. The one thing that Secretary Clinton and Mr. Trump agreed on this campaign was the need for a big infrastructure bill. And in fact, President-elect Trump actually spoke about it last night in the middle of the night when he did his acceptance speech. And so, I mean, it's a big deal. It's something that's very tangible. He's got a way to pay for it, so there actually are some details around it, and it's across the array of infrastructure needs that we have in the country: roads, bridges, transit, airports, ports. I mean, we're going to make the economy work. He believes, and I believe, I know you believe, that we've got to be investing in 21st century infrastructure to keep the economy moving. And I think there's a good chance that could happen. And I think he's actually talking about real money. He's not talking about fancy financing mechanisms to do it. He's talking about actual money through this repatriation. And so there's a chance that we would have a serious amount of new money available for infrastructure investment within sometime in the next calendar year. And so I think we need to be ready for that. We need to be ready for that. I know there are road projects, I know new ones, but there's also plenty of maintenance work that needs to be done. I know in my county there's a heck of a lot of maintenance to be done. We just finished the 4th bridge across the Mississippi River, county bridge across the Mississippi River during my tenure on the county board. And those aren't cheap, I will tell you, you know that. So, I mean, there's plenty of projects out there. And so I'm encouraged about where infrastructure investment, road and bridge and transit investment could very well be with the new administration in Washington. So that's the positive news. I think here in the state of Minnesota, it's anybody's guess. It's going to be an interesting legislative session as we go forward. I think Governor Dayton's training as a goalie may come in handy during the course of the year. Glad he had that surgery. He'll be more agile. He'll be ready to go. But again, this historically, this issue has not been particularly partisan, but we've kind of gotten into its being more partisan. I think we need to find a way to try to take the air out of that again if we're going to go forward and make these investments. And Margaret mentioned the jobs that are available in the metro with these transit projects. There were employees on the Central Corridor project. There were employees from over 60 counties across the state of Minnesota who worked on that project. There were businesses from over 50 counties that had contracts that were part of that project. So Southwest is an even bigger project. It's $1.8 billion. We have the money lined up for that. It's in the queue for federal funding. So that remains to be seen what's going on there. But there have been attempts in the past to eliminate the funding for the major transit projects around the country, and there was a lot of Republican opposition to eliminating that funding because you've got local governments controlled by Republicans in Phoenix, Denver, and other places around the country. Texas Dallas-Fort Worth, where you've got Republicans in charge and they want to have, they want federal investment in their transit system. So I've, you know, my crystal ball's a little shaky this morning, a little foggy, but in fact, there's a good opportunity here, I think, to move that forward. What we did on Southwest was we had about a $145 million problem. The last hole, that was essentially the balance of the state's modest 10% investment in the project in Southwest. Hennepin County puts 10% in, Hennepin County Rail Authority. The county's Transit Improvement Board puts in 30%, and the only money that wasn't there for this project was the balance of the state's 10% share, which was about $145 million. Didn't get a legislative solution during the regular session, didn't get a special session. And so what the governor authorized Adam Dunick and the Met Council to do was to use it's a quasi-debt instrument, these certificates of participation, where they pledge transit money that's coming to them every year. They can pledge that when they go out and borrow money, essentially, through these certificates, and that's what pays the principal and interest. Not an ideal solution. It takes money out of their operating budget. It will be $4 to $5 million in debt service every year. But that was viewed as, in order to keep the project going, and there were layoff notices, some of you may know, going out to the workers on that project. That was going to delay things. It was going to cost money to shut it down and start it back up. A year's delay on the project is $50 million, dead weight cost, no gain in functionality, nothing. And so you knew that was sure as shooting going to happen. And so the decision by the governor, and he said, because Chair Dunick had said he wasn't going to use the certificates, and the governor said, I overruled. And so the governor was willing to take a leadership role, take the risk, move ahead, and devote a modest amount of money, $4 to $5 million a year, toward paying off these certificates, and that fills the hole. That allows us to get in the federal queue for the final application, and the hope is that by the 1st of July of next year, we would actually have the federal commitment through a full funding grant agreement for their 50% share of this project. That's going to be money, just for you contractors out there. That's money that it's not fungible. You can't convert it into a highway building in Minnesota. You can't convert it into anything else. And if you don't use it in Minnesota, it's going to go someplace else in the United States. So we believe that through our local investments in these projects like Southwest, we're actually making the transportation pie bigger in Minnesota. We're making the pie bigger for construction in Minnesota and jobs in Minnesota by bringing some of the federal money back that our taxpayers send to Washington each and every year. So I think on the infrastructure, if there is an infrastructure bill, we need to be ready. In order to take maximum advantage of new federal money coming in, we got to be ready. And we've got, there are transit projects that are ready, but for the states, like Botno, where we've got that project has gotten its environmental reviews done. That's the next LRT project. It's ready to go, but for the state's $148 million, that's their 10% share, less than $500,000 that they've invested so far. So we need to try to figure out that, and then we can move forward again. If there's federal infrastructure money, we can move forward on that. You guys can name the road projects, I'm sure, around the state, and roads and bridges that need to be done. So we've got a chance to do that. We've got to be ready to do it. We've got to be willing to do it. And I think the solutions, frankly, are going to evolve toward more local government participation in solving these investment problems. We've gone through wheelage tax, we've gone through, other local sales taxes. I think, on the transit side, I think that's where it's going to evolve, because I think the state has not proven itself ready to do this, and so I think there's going to be a move back toward more local money going in to cover the state's share. Some people in the metro say, well, that's not fair. The full state should pay because it's benefiting the whole state. And I say to that, yeah, well, maybe that's not fair, but life isn't fair, and the transaction costs associated with waiting to get the state's 10% share, if you ever get it, are too high. we just need to, you know, step up and do it here in the metro. That's what they did in Dallas-Fort Worth under Republican leadership. There's more, they got more miles of LRT than any region in the United States of America. Dallas-Fort Worth, okay? Phoenix, that's what they do. That's what they did in Denver. That's what they've done in virtually every major region around the country. It's been a regional tax, mostly a sales tax, that has been used to provide the non-federal funding for these things. They're not dependent on the legislature and all the things that go on at the legislature. Frankly, I think that could help. That if we did that locally, that could help pass a major transportation bill, because then you don't have the transit stuff kind of getting in the way, because it's been a politically difficult issue to deal with. So again, we were ready to pay last year in the metro for the state chair, take that over, provide more room in the state bonding bill and the like. I think there's still a willingness among some in the metro area to do that as well. And so I think that's the direction we're going to probably have to go if we're going to continue to make these investments. And I think it's imperative that we do it. And the business community, you're going to hear from Doug here soon, but there's been support for these investments in the metropolitan area as part of an economic development strategy. And that's not going to go away. And I tell you, if you travel around the country, you know, you snooze, you lose, folks. These folks are barreling past us on these investments, barreling past us in their transit and road investments that they're making. And if we're going to stay economically competitive, if this state and this region are going to outperform the nation as a whole, which we have done consistently over many, many years, we're going to have to make the 21st century set of investments that are parallels of the investments that we made after the Second World War in the international airport, in the interstate system here in the metropolitan area and across the state. That's what we need to do. And these things don't happen by accident. States don't prosper year after year without great private sector companies, but high quality infrastructure that serves those companies and the people who live here and the employees that need to get to work, and then the places to transport either the materials or the finished goods to market. So that's what it takes, and I think this is a great group to articulate that. And I think it's time to say, let's move beyond the politics and get something done. So thank you very much. That was the wrong answer, Margaret. No. Yeah, go ahead.
Just a comment. I live in western Minnesota, and there's been a lot of hoo-ha about how we don't like light rail out our way. Well, I don't, to be honest, really know anybody who doesn't like light rail. And what you're talking about is the way of the funding mechanism you're talking about. I can guarantee you it's not going to dissuade any of us from western Minnesota from coming into the Twin Cities and spending money. It happens all the time. We're going to keep doing that. This is one Minnesota. That's a good investment for the statewide. And so, I hope we can beat back that drumbeat that we hear from some people, not everybody, it isn't all of the same political party even, that really is good for the whole state, besides the metro area. Besides, I'm not even right on Southwest Light Rail.
I've got county commissioner friends of mine who come in to go to the Twins game every year. They jump on the train at Big Lake, come on down to the Target Field station, and they love it because they don't have to drive through the traffic. They don't have to park the car for.
We have people from Marshall who drive to the Mall of America to get on the light rail to go uptown to go to that.
I was on the train one down in Hiawatha during the football playoffs, high school football playoffs, and there was a train full of people from Brown County because one of their teams was playing in the championship down at the old Metrodome. So I mean that's the way it works. And again, we're ready to pay for that. We're ready to take the state share out of this. Okay, we're ready to take it away from. We're ready to pay for it in the metropolitan area. There's been some distortion of that by some people. We're ready to do that. So it's going to be not only is it going to be no skin off your nose, your taxpayer's nose out in Greater Minnesota, but in fact, it's gonna provide, more room in the bonding bill and more room, to do other things that you need to make your economy work. Anybody else?